Welcome back. Let's continue our coverage now. The Gauteng Health MEC Bandile Masuku has been fired. He's rubbishing an SIU report, of course. We'll get reaction from political analyst and anchor of The Fix. Karima Brown joins us in studio. So it's a lot that's happened in the past couple of hours, hasn't it? First, let's talk about the decision to fire Bandile Masuku based on the findings of the SIU.
I think the Premier, David Makhura, is correct. And he sets a new standard, Shahan. It's important for our viewers and people to distinguish between legality and political responsibility. The MEC is the political head. He's not the accounting officer, that is the Director General. But politically, in terms of our Constitution and the PMFA, which Kaiser Kganyago has quoted, the buck stops with the MEC. Now, in the past, Shahan, government often used to wait until the legal processes ran their course before they took political action against, executive authority. And what the Premier has done here is to say that because the buck stops with the MEC politically, he needs to go. And remember, the Premier made a caveat and said if the process finds that he isn't criminally liable, then he will hire him back. So I think this is a new bar for public servants, and I think Premier Makhura acted correctly and decisively.
Yeah, but the former MEC is not having it. He's going to challenge this SIU report.
Absolutely, and of course that is his right. But I think what we see here is political leadership. And for those who are familiar with the intricacies of African National Congress politics, remember, Shahan, the Provincial Executive Committee of the ANC basically stuck on this matter when they had to look at the recommendations from the Integrity Committee headed up by Trevor Fowler here in the Gauteng province. And the reason for that was that the committee had found that Mr. Masuku must stand aside, but couldn't find that he had done anything wrong. And the problem, of course, with that finding for a lot of people was that the Integrity Committee doesn't even have the beginnings of trying to establish guilt or innocence. What it needs to establish is political integrity. And because Bandile Masuku is the political head, the fact that this even happened under his watch already means he's brought the integrity of the party into question. And for that reason, they had recommended that he stands aside. But that decision was challenged by Bandile Masuku's, supporters, and insiders say even by the Premier. So the fact that the Premier today took this decision means that in the end, the integrity of the political office is what is trumping the legalities of the matter, which of course still needs to be resolved, as Kaiser Kganyago correctly said, and David Makhura as well. The Hawks needs to see if there's criminal issues that needs to happen. The NPA must decide if there's prosecutions, and the rest of the issue still needs to be investigated. But politically, in terms of the Constitution and the PMFA, the SIU has recommended that Bandile Masuku must stand aside, and for that reason, one should commend the Premier of Gauteng.
Yeah, so does this decision give the Integrity Committee of the ANC any ammunition to do make any further decisions regarding Masuku's future?
Yes, it does. In fact, what it does now is that PEC can reconstitute now, because when they adjourned the last time, we were told, those of us who were watching that meeting, that the PEC was stuck, that there were several proposals on the table, and that some people wanted to shoot down the report, others said it was not factual, and the unofficial position was that the office bearers here in Gauteng were going to consult with the top 6 in the African National Congress, and after that they are going to come to a conclusion. We don't know where the ANC process is at, but one would imagine that David Makhura, who is the Premier and also part of that PEC, would have taken that process into consideration. And he cannot now not act, because this is the recommendation of a law enforcement agency. This is the SIU. And remember, the President himself gets weekly updates from the SIU on all the contracts. So the answer that Mr. Kganyago gave on your question about what about Ms. Kusela Diko, he was dodging your question.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is we need to now go to the Presidency and say, Mr. President, the SIU has been briefing the Gauteng Premier. Surely he has briefed you. What exactly are they recommending in relation to Kusela Diko? The same must be asked asked of the mayor of Johannesburg in relation to Bandile's wife, Loyiso Masuku, because as you remember, she is a mayoral committee member, very powerful one. And remember, Kusela Diko's husband was a board member of the Johannesburg market, a position that he could only have obtained if, for example, someone like Loyiso Masuku had been influential in getting them on that board. And remember, he withdrew from that board. And of course, one must ask the question, why would someone who sits in the Eastern Cape serve on the board of the Johannesburg market? And if you look at the scandal that ensued, you will see a host of companies that were used to make payments to Mr. Diko. So we need to, one, get answers from the president, two, get answers from the mayor of Johannesburg, and then three, we need to speak to the Hawks and to see where this goes from a criminal perspective. And then, of course, the National Prosecuting Authority in the province here, Advocate Chauke, must tell us whether or not he is going to pursue this matter criminally. And Shahan, this is very important. Do you know why? In 2010, when Willie Hofmeyer was the head of the SIU here, he found corruption in the health department, then under Brian Hlongwa. And do you know what? That was handed to Mr. Chauke. Mr. Chauke is yet to investigate any wrongdoing. That is a 9-year-old report. So this needs to be seen within the context of impunity. And all of these institutions, from the Hawks to the NPA, from the president to the mayor, needs to account.
We will ask the questions. I know you will push for the questions on Sunday on The Fix. Thank you so much for your time and your insight. Appreciate it, Karima Brown.